Hello and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and hopefully my camera is all focused. Hopefully everything's okay with the audio and the camera quality. If there's any issues, let me know in the live chat. But we are now live for a live stream, and we're going to be talking about a lot in today's live stream. We're going to be talking about Jadon Sancho to Manchester United, the price being agreed. Obviously, we know Manchester United agreed personal terms and wages and everything with Jadon Sancho last summer. The only difference Man United and Dortmund had last summer is that Man United and Dortmund could not agree on a price for Jadon Sancho, but apparently Dortmund have lowered their price to 70 to 80 million, and we know that was the price Manchester United were willing to pay in the summer, and now Man United have a price for Dortmund that they agree on, and we know Dortmund's price for Sancho. It looks, and there's strong indications that, Manchester United could possibly get Sancho in the summer. So we'll be talking about Jadon Sancho to Manchester United, the price being agreed, and all of that in the stream. We'll also be talking about Edinson Cavani staying. Cavani has signed a new contract. Well, he's about to sign a new contract at Manchester United. Reliable journalist Fabrizio Romano came out and talked about Man United looking at the centre-back, talked about Cavani to Manchester United, and a lot of other news. And then we'll be talking about the response to the Glazers Out Protest. Is Man United going to get a points reduction? What's the Premier League said? What's Manchester United said? What's the long-term impact of that? But I want to start with the Jadon Sancho news, because I know we don't want to distract ourselves too much from the Glazers Out movement. I know the Glazers Out movement is really important, and maybe this Jadon Sancho news, is it a PR spin? I don't know if it's a PR spin, because we have been linked with Jadon Sancho a lot in the last month, and we know that Jadon Sancho was this close to joining. But what I'm going to say before I actually talk about the Jadon Sancho news is, Man United need a right winger. We need a right winger. We were all of a sudden looking at a striker. Then it was said, if Cavani stays, Man United will go for a right winger and not a striker. Ironically, on the same day, Fabrizio Romano says that Cavani is likely to stay at Manchester United. We are now being very, very strongly linked to Jadon Sancho. Borussia Dortmund have put an offer in for another right winger because they're prepared for Jadon Sancho to go. Borussia Dortmund have come out and said that Haaland won't leave, but they're basically saying that there's an agreement for Sancho to leave. Borussia Dortmund are looking at replacements. It looks like Sancho's going to a Premier League club. He's linked to Manchester United, who he agreed personal terms with last summer. I think the indications of Jadon Sancho to Manchester United are very strong, are very positive, but we have to remember this is Manchester United. Everything is done with Jadon Sancho in terms of we've agreed personal terms with him a year ago. We agreed wages and all of that, but it's United. We're very, very bad at the transfer market, and I think it's a race between us, Chelsea, and Liverpool. So I'd really see it's a race between us and Liverpool. But I'm actually going to read out what was said about Jadon Sancho and give you my thoughts on the situation. But I do agree that a lot of reports a couple of weeks ago that Man United is still very strongly interested in Jadon Sancho, and we know that Jadon Sancho was this close to coming. And do you remember with Bruno Fernandes 2 summers ago? He was this close to signing, and then he signed in the next window. It wouldn't surprise me if this is the repeat with Jadon Sancho, because we know that Jadon Sancho will be cheaper this year. So I'm going to read out the Jadon Sancho story, what has been said, and then I'll address some of your live chats, and then I will get into some of the other stories. But this is what was said. So the first thing that sort of came out today was this. Dortmund bosses have agreed internally on a sum of 85 to 90 million euros for Jadon Sancho, which is about 70 to 80 million pounds, which is obviously Man United offered Dortmund 80 million pounds for Sancho last summer. So, surely they'd be offering them 80 million pounds for Sancho this summer. If we're willing to pay 80 million for him last summer, surely we're willing to pay the asking price, which is now 80 million pounds for him this summer. He will be allowed to leave if these conditions are met. So basically, Dortmund have said, if you pay 70 to 80 million or 85 to 90 million euros, which is about 75 million pounds for Jadon Sancho, he can leave Dortmund and come to your club. Well, we know with Manchester United, Jadon Sancho agreed to join Manchester United in summer. Everything's been done. His wages have been done. If Man United now go and pay 70, 80 million pounds for Jadon Sancho, he will be a Manchester United player. Now, last summer, they were asking 108 million, and we weren't prepared to pay that. We said we'd pay 80 million. They're now offering money we were willing to pay a year ago. Bear in mind, we didn't really spend that much last summer in terms of a net spend. So we have the money. And could Man United be willing to pay for it now? They say he'll be allowed to leave if these conditions are met. There might be a certain time limit for the offer. Dortmund have been planning security and all of that. There is a news story saying that Dortmund want to sell Sancho before Euro 2021. And if Man United are going to buy Sancho, they've got to put that offer in before Euro 2021. And Dortmund did this with us last year. They said, if you want Sancho, I think there was an August 10th deadline or something. They're like, if you want Sancho, there's an August 10th deadline. That's what they said to us. We didn't meet that deadline, and we learned from that mistake. Because when we went back in for Sancho 3 days before deadline day, Dortmund said, you missed our deadline. So maybe Manchester United have learned from that and go, okay, if we want to get Sancho, we actually have to get him before this deadline. United know that if they offer Dortmund, 70 million quid before Euro 2021 deadline, they can get Sancho over the line. Sancho's already agreed all the personal terms on that with Manchester United. Sancho can come to Manchester United. Now, Leah Smith, a journalist, so they only came across a few days ago, but I kept hearing her name, and everyone that's told me about it said that she's quite reliable. She said that she was recently told that Dortmund's deadline is before the summer Euros, as I was saying earlier. Dortmund are planning for Sancho's exit, though, in the last few weeks. They made an offer for the PL winger, but it was rejected. So she's basically saying that Dortmund have planned their replacement for Sancho. Dortmund have made an offer for a Premier League winger, but it was rejected. And they're viewing this Premier League winger that isn't named. I assume someone maybe like Rafinha as Sancho's replacement. But again, she backs up this statement that said that Dortmund will let Sancho leave for about 85 million euros in the summer. And she's saying if this is before the Euro deadline. So the latest we know on Jadon Sancho is Manchester United have everything in place to sign Jadon Sancho, which came from Fabrizio Romano, a very, very reliable journalist. We know that, everything's agreed internally. We have everything in place to sign with Sancho. And the other bit of information that's coming is Borussia Dortmund have a gentleman's agreement to sell Jadon Sancho. They said to Sancho, we will let you leave this summer. They didn't let Sancho leave last summer. They said, we will let you leave this summer. Their asking price is 85 to 90 million euros, which is about 70-ish million pounds, which Man United were willing to pay a year ago, so surely we'd be willing to pay it now. And Dortmund's deadline is just before the Euros. So the news is, could Manchester United be getting Jadon Sancho just before the Euros? That's a massive thing. Now, the thing is, obviously, we know how Manchester United deal with transfers. We know that everything is in place for Jadon Sancho to come to Manchester United. We know that Dortmund now have a reasonable price that a year ago we were willing to pay. But it is Manchester United. It would be classic Manchester United to go to Dortmund and say, we're not going to pay more than £60 million now. And Dortmund could turn around and say, but this time last year, you were willing to pay £80 million. We want £70 million. Why are you no longer willing to pay £60 million? They would just turn around to Manchester United and they'll say that. And the only thing that can go wrong with this deal is if our greedy owners, the Glazers, say 60 million for Sancho or nothing, and Chelsea swooping again. Now, the three teams in for Jadon Sancho are Manchester United, Liverpool and Chelsea. Now, I think we can comfortably beat Liverpool in the race. Liverpool look unlikely to get Champions League football. They don't have the funds. Now, it's between Manchester United and Chelsea, and we actually beat Chelsea in the race for Jadon Sancho last summer. They actually chose to come to us over Chelsea, and Chelsea assumed we were going to get Sancho like everyone else did. So that's why Chelsea went in for the likes of Timo Werner, Havertz, and Ziyech. And I think because Chelsea have Timo Werner, Havertz, and Ziyech, maybe Chelsea's priorities are elsewhere. They've got Mount, they've got Ziyech, they've got Hudson-Odoi, Timo Werner, all of that can play on that kind of right-hand side or just up top where Sancho would be playing. And we know that Sancho wants to come to the Premier League. So I still think, it's probably us in a race for him with Chelsea. But I do think, are Chelsea going to spend £70 million on another Bundesliga attacker? Where for me, I think there's other areas Chelsea can improve. But then it is Roman Abramovich. He's very like the manager that would spend £300 million. But I don't think Liverpool gets Sancho. But I think it's between Man United and Chelsea to sign Sancho, because we know that Sancho will be allowed to leave this summer if the terms are met. We know that Sancho is happy to come to Manchester United. It literally is. If Man United are willing to pay around £70 million for Jadon Sancho, he will be a Manchester United player in the summer. Maybe they will do this. We've angered the Glazers a lot. They will want to distract us from this Glazers out. They do not like the negative press around us. Our stocks are going down. Maybe the Glazers will give us a good summer, because we haven't had a good summer in a while. Let me know in the live chat, when was the last time you would say Man United had a successful summer? Because it's been a while. We didn't get anyone we really wanted last summer. The summer before, we didn't get Bruno. We waited till January. Is it going to be Pogba going to be, not Pogba, is Jadon Sancho going to be the new Bruno Fernandes? We don't get him when we first want him. He's cheaper. We go back and get him. And I do think United can sign Sancho. I do think there's a good chance. But again, you know who runs this club, the Glazers, Ed Woodward. We all were 99% sure Sancho was coming to Man United at the start of August, because Fabrizio Romano, the most reliable journalist out there, announced that everything was agreed. Everything was in place for Man United to sign Sancho. They failed. But Sancho is cheaper. We have a track record for going back for players when they're cheaper. And I think this is a line that Man United almost need to do. I think this is a sign Man United almost need to do. Yeah, we need a right winger, but I think if you're looking at it from a business perspective, the Glazers, well done everyone. Glazers out movement, pressure is on, stocks is down. Adidas are pressing Glazers because the shirt sales aren't as good. The Glazers need to get their shirt sales up. Bang, Sancho 7, shirt sales, money. Almost from a business perspective, maybe the Glazers will do it in that perspective, because we know the Glazers obviously only care about business at Manchester United, and I will get into some of you guys' live chats in a second, but I think from a business perspective, it really wouldn't surprise me if the Glazers went for it. Another interesting story was kind of obviously came from Fabrizio Romano that said Manchester United are confident that Edinson So Fabrizio Romano also said this, which it links to Sancho. Manchester United are confident that Edinson Cavani will soon sign a contract extension. There's a lot of optimism. He expects the definitive agreement with Solskjaer, who is personally insisting on convincing Cavani despite an offer from Boca Juniors. Now, there was news that Cavani was going to leave to Boca Juniors. He wanted to go home and be closer to his family. But over the last week, it's looking very likely that Cavani will stay at Manchester United. And we know if Cavani stays at Manchester United, we will not be looking at a striker. In fact, we'll be looking at a right winger, which links into Sancho. And the other interesting story that I thought also linked to this was Borussia Dortmund are confident Erling Haaland will remain in Germany for one last season. Manchester United, City and Chelsea are all interested in signing Haaland this summer in a deal worth £150 million. But Dortmund are confident Haaland will stay. Maybe Dortmund are confident Haaland will stay is because they told Sancho he can leave. And Haaland and Sancho aren't going to leave in the same window, let's be honest here. And they've told Sancho he can leave. They have an agreement with Sancho he can leave. So that's possibly why. But Big Ron says Chelsea, Liverpool and Spurs have all had better transfer windows than United last summer. Where are they in the league? That's the thing, if you looked at Chelsea's transfer window, no one would have predicted that we were going to finish comfortably above Chelsea. I don't think anyone was going to finish we're going to finish. I mean, we might not finish above Chelsea if we get this points reduction news, which I will talk about in a minute, but I think it's a joke. And I have to say, with the points reduction news, it's come from the Daily Mail and the Mirror, so it's not something that I really look at and go, oh, if it happens, it happens. But I think the points reduction news is worrying. But yeah, no, we didn't have the most successful transfer window last summer, and we made it work. And I just think, imagine if we had a successful transfer window of Sancho, Rice, Varane. Like, what could this squad do? Cavani's likely to stay. If we can keep Pogba, sign Sancho, Varane and Rice, I think we can build something special. We saw our attack, how brilliant our attack was against Roma, 6-2 in a semi-final. If we can get a top CDM and a centre-back into our attack, it always makes me wonder, what can Manchester United do? If we can get Sancho over the line, and we're in a very, very good position to sign Sancho, everything's agreed on. Dortmund have lowered their price to a price that we'd agreed on. It's just, will Man United pay the money to get Sancho? I think we would be in a very good position. Last season, United wanted to pay 100 million, but Dortmund was seeking 120 million. Now they've reduced their price to 85. That's what I'm saying. Dortmund have reduced their price to a price lower than what Man United were willing to pay last summer. We were willing to pay 100 million euros for Jadon Sancho last summer. They now want 85 million euros. We are definitely willing to pay that. Everything was agreed and put in place for Jadon Sancho to come to Manchester United. He wants to join. Dortmund will let him go if Man United now pay 85 million euros, which is about 70 million quid for Jadon Sancho. And we have 70 million quid. We're in the best position we can be to sign Jadon Sancho because he'll be cheaper. He wants to come. Cavani's likely to stay, so we're not going for a striker, we're going for a right winger. Manchester United have everything they want if they want to get Jadon Sancho over the line. And I think United are in a very, very strong position to sign Jadon Sancho. It's just, will those in charge fuck it up again? And I don't think they can fuck it up. I don't think from a business perspective, and I don't like looking at it from a business perspective, but if I think about it from a business perspective, I don't think Man United can mess up this deal because the stocks are low. Adidas are putting pressure on shirt sales, as I said earlier. Man United need a Sancho signing to get their shirt sales up because the shirt sales are falling, the stocks are falling. The Glazers are under pressure from a business perspective. The new director of football might want to make an impression. And if you look at it from all that perspective, so I even think from a business perspective, Man United could almost be forced into signing Sancho from a business perspective. We were at an all-time low, and then we signed Bruno. We're at an all-time low now. Will they sign Sancho? The Bruno and Sancho deal had a lot in common. We were meant to get Bruno in the summer. We didn't get him. Everyone was fuming. The season was going bad. Glazers out chance was going again. All of a sudden, Bruno comes in, boosts to the squad. And I think they could do something very similar with Sancho. And I think Sancho is our Bruno signing, where we go for him in the summer. We don't want to pay the money because the people that own our club are businessmen. We can now get Sancho for a good £30 million cheaper than last summer. We're saving £30 million on him, and they'll go from a business perspective, they save £30 million, and we can get Jadon Sancho over the line. I heard they raised it to 100 million. That came from a very, very unreliable source, and I think with Sancho and Dortmund possibly not finishing in the Champions League, it looks like Dortmund won't finish in the Champions League. That Dortmund will have to sell Sancho, and they'll have to accept something like 70, 80 million pounds for him. I think we could get Sancho for 80 million pounds. Knowing United, they'll offer 60 no more. That's the problem with Manchester United. We could get Jadon Sancho for 70 million pounds, and we know Jadon Sancho would come to Manchester United because everything's put in place, everything's agreed. But will Man United be Man United and go, nah, 60 million pounds or nothing, and Dortmund tell us to F off and Sancho goes to Chelsea? That's the only way it can go wrong. The only way we don't get Sancho this summer is if we're not willing to pay the money for him. And if he is £70 million, which is 85 million euros, like a reliable source is saying, why were we not willing to pay that for Jadon Sancho? We've needed a right winger for years. You need to get your shirt sales up. You need to get the stocks up, Glazers. From a business perspective, the Glazers need Sancho. The Glazers need a signing like Sancho to help these stocks, help these shirt sales. And from a squad perspective, we need Sancho. And from a fan's perspective, we want Sancho, and we can get Sancho. And I think getting Sancho for 85 million euros, 70 million pounds, is pretty much a bargain, if you want my honest opinion. It's a little over 70 million pounds. But yeah, everybody please hit that like button if you want Sancho to come to Manchester United. We're just talking about the Sancho news and all of that. If you're new to the stream, I will give you a little bit of a quick update, which basically is the latest on Jadon Sancho, if you've just joined the stream, is that Manchester United have everything in place to sign Jadon Sancho. Fabrizio Romano obviously came out and said that a while ago, that BVB, Borussia Dortmund, have a gentleman's agreement with Sancho that he will go, that Sancho can leave this summer. Their asking price is 85 million euros, which is a little over 70 million pounds, which Manchester United are willing to pay and were willing to pay a year ago. So we should be willing to pay it now, and we probably are willing to pay it now. And that Dortmund's deadline is before the Euros, and that maybe Sancho could come before the Euros. That is the latest on Sancho. We will be talking about the possibility of a points reduction, and also Edinson Cavani is staying. Now, talking to Fabrizio Romano actually came out and said this today regarding Manchester United's centre-back situation, because I think we all know we'd love Jadon Sancho, but we all know there's problems at the back and in the midfield. And Fabrizio Romano said this earlier today: after extending Eric Bailly's contract, Manchester United is still looking for another centre-back. So we have Eric Bailly has stayed at Manchester United, Cavani is staying at Manchester United, and hopefully Pogba's staying at Man United. There are a few positivenesses of Pogba staying at Man United, but the thing that was mainly said is, if Man United look like an ambitious team that want to challenge for major titles, Paul Pogba will stay. For Paul Pogba to stay, maybe Man United need to have a good transfer window. So we keep Eric Bailly, we sign a good centre-back. We get Cavani up top, we sign a good right winger. Forces Paul Pogba into staying. He maybe signs a new contract because he wants to play with all these top players like Sancho and all of that. But yeah, thanks to everybody who's currently in the stream. It would be awesome if you could hit that like button. I'm going for 100 likes. Remember, Glazers out, Glazers out. Yes, there's some positive news about Sancho, but we don't want that to distract us from the main message, which is we've got to get the Glazers out of Manchester United. We'll be talking about the Liverpool match, the repercussions of the protest, and more, so stay tuned for that. But hit that like button for Glazers out. And if you're new and you've not seen my face before, I do daily Manchester United content. It's a Manchester United fan channel, so feel free to subscribe. Who is Sancho? He's a right winger at Borussia Dortmund. That's English, young, and his stats are insane, actually. People think that Jadon Sancho is having a bad season, and I think that's because a lot of people don't watch the Bundesliga. But Jadon Sancho was a little bit like Mason Greenwood, and he did start the season a little slow, but he's still having a really good season. Jadon Sancho has 12 goals and 18 assists this season in 34 games. He actually has 30 goal contributions in 2,600 minutes. He actually averages over a goal contribution a game. And yeah, I know it's the Bundesliga. I know the Bundesliga isn't the best league in the world, but his numbers are insane. Like, he hasn't played loads this season, but he averages over a goal contribution a game. He plays all around the front four. I will give you a little brief on Jadon Sancho. I'm actually looking at his stats now. Jadon Sancho has played 14 games as the right winger, 11 games as the left winger, 7 games as an attacking midfielder. So if Bruno gets injured, maybe Sancho could drop down there. And he's played 2 games as a centre forward. Now, Jadon Sancho's best position is definitely right winger. In 14 games as a right winger for Jadon Sancho, he's got 5 goals and 10 assists in 14 games as a right winger. That's 15 goal contributions in 14 games as a right winger. So I think Jadon Sancho is a top player. Averill Glazer looks like a rotten tomato. I agree. Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs. Oh, I read that one out earlier. But I know Dortmund, they'll probably want 90 million, which equals 78 million. It will be, I think Jadon Sancho will cost Manchester United between 70 and 80 million pounds. Man United were willing to pay 80 million pounds for Sancho last summer. He'll be between 70 and 80 million pounds, and they should be willing to pay 70 to 80 million pounds for Jadon Sancho this summer. And I'm sure they are, but they will see what they can do to see if they can get for 60 million, because that is Manchester United. Signing players does not guarantee success, I agree, but I think if you sign Jadon Sancho, you sign Declan Rice, and you sign Rafael Varane, and you keep Pogba and Cavani, if Man United were not doing something good and we didn't have any injuries, there would be a lot of questions under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I think. I've missed a few live chats, so I will try and read as many live chats as I can. We can get a CDM and a centre-back, even if we get Sancho. Plus, I know we wouldn't get Sancho. I am actually optimistic in getting Sancho. Now, I don't want to say we're going to get anyone, because I was so confident we were going to sign Sancho last summer. So I can never sit here and say Man United are going to sign a player. I did actually predict we'd sign Donny van de Beek. There's a video I made about a year ago where I said I think we'd sign Van de Beek. Funny story. But I can't predict who we're going to sign. But I do have confidence of Man United getting Sancho over the line, because I just think the Glazers need to do a deal like this for their business, get the stocks up, get the shirt sales up. Because I don't know if you've known, but Man United's shirt sales have fallen the last 2 years. What's happened in the last 2 years? We haven't made any marquee attacking signings. That's why our shirt sales have fallen. So from a business perspective, I think the Glazers almost need a deal like Sancho. I think we need Sancho. And Sancho's very like Bruno Fernandes. When we first want him, we're not willing to pay the money. He gets cheaper. We go in from again. And I'm actually very optimistic that Man United will get Sancho. That's not the right word. But I actually have a feeling that we could get Sancho, and I wouldn't be surprised if we got Sancho. Does it distract us from the fact that the Glazers are bad owners? No, we know the Glazers are awful owners, but it wouldn't surprise me if we got Sancho, honestly. And I don't want to predict anything because it's United. We could have a player come in for a medical and then turn around and don't get him because it's United. Fabrizio Romano could go, here we go. With Man United, you can't say we're going to sign a player till the shirt's holding up, because we all thought Sancho was coming last summer. But I do think there is a likely chance that United could get Sancho. I wouldn't be surprised if United got Sancho, because, as we know, Cavani's staying. Our focus has gone from striker to right wing. Fabrizio Romano came out and said that Man United had everything in place to sign Sancho. We know that Borussia Dortmund have a gentleman's agreement with Sancho, meaning Sancho can leave this summer. Borussia Dortmund told Sancho he can leave this summer. Borussia Dortmund said that Haaland's staying. We know that if Haaland's staying, that means Sancho will leave. Which means that we're not going for Haaland. And the asking price is 85 million euros, which is a little over 70 million pounds, which we know Manchester United are willing to pay. But the deadline is before the Euros. And will Manchester United get that deal over the line before the deadline? Will be mad. It's a 75 mil and they have a gentleman's agreement. Yes, basically, if Manchester United give Borussia Dortmund 75 million pounds, bear in mind we offered them 80 million pounds last summer, but they said no. If Man United give Borussia Dortmund 75 million pounds, they will let Sancho come and join United. Sancho's obviously got his wages and everything dealt with United. He wants to come to United, he wants to come to England. It's just, are Man United going to pay the money for Sancho? Are Man United finally going to go and pay the money for Sancho? And I think they have to. We're not going to get a striker. Cavani staying. There's a lot of pressure on the Glazers. They need a big deal for their business perspective. We need a right winger. You know what? If we get Sancho, look, I can't say we're going to get him, but I have a lot of positivity that United could pull off Sancho this summer. It's like Bruno in January. We didn't get him when we first wanted him, and we did manage to pull off Sancho. I don't know what you guys think, but I would love us to get Sancho, and I do think we could get Sancho. I do think we could get him over the line, because the guy wants to come to United. Ollie wants him. United want him. There's pressure on the board. There's pressure on the Glazers. There's so much in place for United to get Sancho. The price tag is 75 million pounds. Man United have 75 million pounds. We can get Sancho. We can get Sancho. The question is, will we get Sancho? Will our owners be greedy again for another summer? Now, the owners have got a lot of pressure on them for being greedy. Can they afford to have another greedy summer? They've had 3 or 4 greedy summers in a row. The Glazers have to actually have a good summer for a change. I think they have to. We've got a squad for the first time where I really feel like we are 3 signings away off building something. I think as a Man United fan, if we can keep Pogba, we can keep Cavani, if we can get Sancho, a CDM like Declan Rice over the line, and Raphael Varane, I think we can build something. I know Roy Keane and all of that talk about blah, 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 blah coming to Man United, or they need Kane, they need Grealish. But for me, I read out Sancho's stats earlier. Sancho, as a right winger, averages over a goal contribution a game on the right wing. We need a right winger. Put Greenwood up top. If you get Sancho, you have the attacking depth of Sancho, Greenwood, Martial, Cavani, Rashford, and technically Pogba, and you could even go as far as Dan James, but we're not going to get into that. And Amad Diallo, Sancho for 75 million pounds, which Dortmund are willing to sell him for 75 million pounds, and a price we were willing to pay for Sancho a year ago, I think is a very, very good deal. And I think we need a right winger. 15 goal contributions in 14 games when playing as a right winger this season. Sancho has 30 goal contributions in all competitions this season, averaging over a goal or assist a game. Sancho's not having a bad season. A 21-year-old averaging over a goal contribution a game for 75 million pounds that wants to come to your club, that has personal terms agreed to join your club, for me, is a bargain. And if you agree, hit that like button. If you've not seen my face before, please subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football. I do daily Manchester United content and streams, but I was just reading out the latest from Jadon Sancho, and we've just got a lot of people that have just joined. So I'm going to quickly sum up what I've been talking about at the start of the stream for everyone that's just joined now. But the latest on Jadon Sancho is Man United have everything in place to sign Jadon Sancho. Fabrizio Romano obviously said that a little while ago. You know, personal terms agreed. We have everything in place to sign Jadon Sancho. Sancho wants to come to Man United. Borussia Dortmund have a gentleman's agreement with Sancho that if a team offers £75 million for him, they will let him leave. They told Sancho they will let him leave this summer. The asking price is €85 million, which is around £75 million. We know Manchester United were willing to pay £80 million from a year ago. And now that price is lowered, Man United do have the money to buy Sancho. It's just a question of, will we be greedy again? But Dortmund's deadline is before the Euros, and we know Manchester United are very, very slow with their business. Will they get this deal done before the Euros? Now, I'm really sorry if I've missed out a few live chats. I do want to go and read some of the live chats before I get into the story about possible points reduction for Manchester United. But I do want to address some of the live chats. So I'm sorry if I missed some of your live chats. Just put some more live chats down below because I'm going to scroll to the bottom. If Sancho not come to United, his wages will be agreed like last season. This shows Sancho's heart is in the United team. Sancho wants to come to United. You know, Chelsea wanted Sancho last season, but Sancho chose United. The only reason Chelsea went and signed Havertz, Werner, and Ziyech is because they thought Sancho was going to United this summer. Now, Chelsea might go back in for Sancho, but Sancho wants United. Liverpool aren't going to get Sancho. Liverpool, Chelsea, and United are in the race for Sancho. It's between Chelsea and United. Sancho picked Man United over Chelsea last season. He's likely to do it again this season. I think a CDM is more important than getting Sancho. I think a CDM, a right wing, and a quick centre-back is needed, but I do agree with the whole... It really frustrated me on Sky Sports. You know, you had Roy Keane, Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, Souness, every pundit giving their opinion on Man United, but not one of them mentioned that we needed a CDM. I did think that was a joke. Sancho should play at CDM. We will talk about CDMs and stuff, but the really frustrating thing is, it looks like Man United are going for Sancho and a centre-back this summer. Fabrizio Romano did come out and say, yes, Eric Bailly signed a new contract, but Man United still want a centre-back. You know, we know Man United still want to go for a centre-back and we still want to go for Jadon Sancho. Will we get a CDM? Now, I think if we're getting Jadon Sancho at Man United, we're going to sell Jesse Lingard. Now, what would be the smart thing to do? All right, we'll give you Jesse Lingard and £40 million for Declan Rice. Okay, if Jesse Lingard, £40 million for Declan Rice. Now, if you're looking at Manchester United, you're thinking 40 million for Declan Rice, because we give them Jesse Lingard, 70 million for Sancho. That's 110 million. You know, there's possible outs as well. You know, obviously Bailly has stayed, but that's 110 million on two players, a CDM and a right wing. And Bailly stayed, so we'll just go for a cheap centre-back. I think United can afford Sancho, a CDM and a centre-back. And I think I expect us to at least make two of them, because I think the Glazers, from a business perspective, need to get a big signing done. Our shirt sales are falling. The only way to get our shirt sales up and our stocks up for the Glazers, and they only care about it from a business perspective, big signing, Sancho 7, what's that going to do? Noise, 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 stocks, up, up, up. You know, I think we're in a position with these protests where we could almost force the Glazers into having a good transfer window. Will I rather have a good transfer window or get the Glazers out? If having another shit transfer window meant getting the Glazers out of the club, I'm all for it. But, you know, this is just the start. I don't think the Glazers are fazed by this protest. We need to protest more. You know, this is just a start of getting the Glazers out. But from a business perspective, I think the Glazers will feel in a position where they, you know, they have to do something. Everybody, please hit that like button if you want the Glazers out. We will be talking about the Glazers out. I was just updating everyone on the Sancho news, my thoughts on the Sancho news. But for Glazers out, hit that like button. If you've not seen my face before, just subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football. I do daily Manchester United content. I do watch-alongs, match reactions, and streams if you're new. This comment says, I know this isn't part of the video, but we are getting a free player from Inter Milan if they've not played for Lukaku by any chance. I don't think we are. I haven't heard that anywhere. So you have to update me on that. This guy says, Manchester United, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer must buy Jack Grealish, Jadon Sancho, Rafael Varane, Paul Torres, or Jules Koundé. I agree. I think I'd like Jack Grealish, but I don't think it's a necessity. For me, Jack Grealish I'd love, but for me, keep Pogba, keep Cavani, sign Sancho, get a top CDM like Rice, use Lingard to lower Rice's price, and yes, go for either Rafael Varane or Jules Koundé. I think would be brilliant. But only 13 likes needed for 100 likes, guys. So it'd be absolutely awesome if you could hit that like button. But this guy says that Varane is injury prone, and if he got injured, he'll miss Chelsea game. I didn't really know about Varane's injury record. I can Google Varane's injury record. I will do that now. I'm going to Google Varane's injury record. I was just reading out Jadon Sancho's stats. But I think Varane would be a good signing at Manchester United, and Fabrizio Romano did come out and say, yes, Eric Bailly is staying at Man United, but they still want the centre-back. Now, can we get Varane? He wants to leave Real Madrid. Florentino Perez has said he's going to let him go. He doesn't want to stay. Alaba's going to Real Madrid. We know Varane's going to leave. Now it's between Man United and Chelsea to get Varane. Now, I want Pogba to stay, but Pogba wants Madrid. So maybe Pogba and Varane in the same situation. We do a swap with Pogba to get Varane. But there are talks about Pogba staying if Manchester United show ambition. But Varane's injury record this season hasn't been too bad, by the way. Varane has played 40 games this season. So I wouldn't say Varane had a strong injury record. And yes, Sancho is going for £75 million. And what is interesting about that, as I said earlier in the stream, is Man United were willing to pay £80 million for Sancho a year ago. He's now £75 million. He still wants to come to Manchester United. Everything in place is for us to sign Sancho. Will we pay it? Well, we need our shirt sales to go up. What's going to make our shirt sales go up? A Sancho deal. Sancho, £75 million for a player that averages over a goal and assist a game at 21 years of age in the right wing position. What have Man United needed since Valencia converted to a right back? A right wing for years is a bargain for Manchester United. Sancho, hype player, social media player, brings them money. Business perspective, brilliant for the Glazers. Glazers only care about the business. On a pitch perspective, Sancho, 21, £75 million for a player that wants to come to your club, that has agreed to come to your club, that can play right wing, the position that you haven't really filled properly for years. We know that Mason Greenwood's more of a striker. We know Rashford's better on the left. We know James prefers the left. It would be stupid for Manchester United not to get him. We can send Garner on loan at Brighton and buy Bissouma for £35-40 million. I think a cheaper alternative to Declan Rice would be Bissouma. I rate Bissouma. When we played Brighton, Bissouma was better than McTominay and Fred, in my opinion. You know, when we played Brighton, Brighton had a better midfield. And I think getting James Garner loan experience in the Premier League would be brilliant. And I love James Garner. I think he's a great player. And I think I wouldn't be off Bissouma for £35-40 million. I just think that if we use Lingard, we could pay £35-40 million for Declan Rice. Now, Jesse Lingard has been West Ham's most important player the second half of the season. West Ham go. Declan Rice is not going to be sold for under £100 million. We can do the same to them. You want Jesse Lingard? Well, he's worth £60 million if Declan Rice is worth £100 million. You know, and I'm a fan of Bissouma, but I think we're in a very, very strong position to get Declan Rice. My only fear is that Declan Rice wants Chelsea, not United. However, I don't know if you guys are aware, but Declan Rice was actually asking Maguire and Luke Shaw about joining Manchester United, and Declan Rice is interested in joining United. We should get Koundé for centre-back. I rate Jules Koundé. A lot of people go, Jules Koundé is very small and all of that. I actually have done a video on Jules Koundé to Manchester United. I've done a few videos about Jules Koundé to Manchester United, and I would definitely say that he would be a good signing. You know, there's a video I made about 3 months ago about why Jules Koundé actually is the perfect partner for Maguire. He's quick. He actually has better aerial stats than Lindelof. I know Jules Koundé is small, but his aerial stats are like much better than Pau Torres's, are better than Lindelof's. He actually compared his aerial stats to Ruben Diaz's, and it's better. And Jules Koundé is quick. He's young. I think Jules Koundé would be a great signing for Manchester United. And he's got a injury record as well. Do you think Man United can afford Sancho and Didi Rice centre-back? I think Man United can afford Sancho, a CDM and a centre-back if we go about our business in the right way. It's just, will we? You know, we could afford Sancho last summer. We just were being greedy because our owners are greedy. It's just, do the Glazers want to save another £50-100 million for their own pocket? That's the thing. I think we can afford Sancho. We know we can afford Sancho. If we were willing to pay £80 million for Sancho last summer, we're surely willing to pay £75 million from this summer. Of course, Man United will say to Dortmund, I 100% put money on that. Man United will say for Dortmund £60 million and see if they can get it for cheap. But I think Man United will be played into paying £75 million for Sancho. And I think they will, because they won't want to lose that deal. The Glazers probably won't want to lose that deal either, because they need Sancho to get their shirt sales up, to get their stock sales up, to get their reputation up. I think Man United can afford Sancho, and I think they might be forced in a position where they have to pay for Sancho. The thing is, Man United won't want to buy Sancho, a CDM like Rice, and a centre-back, but we can afford it. You've got to think, we've had a net spend the last 3 transfer windows of £60 million. Man United have had 3 very disappointing transfer winners in a row. We signed a Garlo because we didn't want to pay them the agent fee to get Haaland. That is Manchester United for you. We have the money. It's just, will we do it? 0 dislikes, yay. Everybody please hit that like button. We're going for 150 likes on this video. We've got nearly 150 people watching. So if you haven't hit that like button, hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. I do daily Manchester United content. I will be doing a live watch along for Manchester United versus Roma on Thursday. So subscribe if you want to see that. I do daily Manchester United content, match previews, updates, and more. Glazers, wait, I've just missed this comment. Glazers are trying to please the fans with the interesting timing the day after the protest. I do think this Sancho story and the big updates on Sancho is a little bit of a distraction and a PR spin from the protest. And I just said it really wouldn't surprise me if we had a good transfer window to distract the fans from the mistake they made with the Super League. The pressure is on the Glazers more than ever, and it really, really wouldn't surprise me if Man United ended up having a good transfer window as a distraction, as a PR spin. I would happily have another shit transfer window if it meant the Glazers left. I would. Do I want a good transfer window? Yes. Do I want Manchester United to win titles? But I'd happily have 1 or 2 shit years if it meant the Glazers left for someone good to come in. I generally would. But it wouldn't surprise me if we did have a very good transfer window because the Glazers need to apologise. It's also, we've got a different structure in the transfer window. We've got no Ed Woodward. It would be John Murta. And I'm sure that he will want, like, his first year to send a good impression. Do I trust John Murta? No. He's always been in the club. Do I think our new director of football is good? No. But Woodward won't be involved in transfers this summer. Or he might be, but he won't be involved after this summer because we do know Woodward is leaving. I still think the owners of United will not sell. We will come to the Manchester United owners selling United. We were just doing the Sancho chat. We will come to the Man United owners selling United. Will there be a points deduction? And the Liverpool match being rescheduled in just a minute. What are the sources? There's quite a few sources for the Sancho story. I'm assuming you're asking my source for the Sancho story. Now, I've got 4 sources that I'll read out. So the first, the Manchester United had everything in place to sign Sancho, was said by Fabrizio Romano. We know he's a very reliable journalist. Borussia Dortmund have a gentleman's agreement to sell Sancho and let him leave. It was from ARD. Now, the price they're asking for Sancho, 85 million euros, is from Sport 1, which apparently is quite credible. I was looking at what people said about it, but I'm not very familiar with the source. And Dortmund's deadline for Sancho is before the Euros, which was said by Leah Smith. So those are the sources of the show. Hi, it's good to see your show for the first time. Well, thank you to everyone. If you're new and you've not seen my face before, I do daily Manchester United content, transfer updates, and more. So subscribe if that sounds like your thing. If you want to see daily United content, subscribe. I'm doing a watch along for Manchester United versus Roma on the Thursday. Pogba has to stay if we are to compete for trophies in the next few years. I agree. I'd love Paul Pogba to stay. My dream is Paul Pogba staying, Cavani staying, get Sancho, get Ndidi, and get someone like Varane. Sancho, Varane, and Rice, we will compete for the Premier League and Championship next season. I think if we can keep Pogba and Cavani, get Sancho, Varane, and Rice, and we're lucky with injuries, I think we can compete. I think we can compete. It will be interesting to see what we do. It will be interesting to see where we are next summer. But I generally think if we got those 3 signings, we could compete. We could compete. Lingard plus 40, 50 million for Rice. I think we can get that done. Will we get it done? We're very inefficient with transfers. I think, we probably will focus on Sancho at the start of the window. I think Sancho will be our priority signing again. Erling Haaland is no longer Manchester United's priority signing because Cavani is staying. Sancho now is. Sancho was a priority signing last summer. The difference between Erling Haaland and Jadon Sancho is, if Jadon Sancho is our priority signing, it's good because we know Jadon Sancho wants to come to Manchester United. When Erling Haaland was our priority signing, I said we won't get him because he won't want to come. But we do know Jadon Sancho does want to come. I wonder what number Sancho will wear. The only thing is, if Cavani stays, will it be Sancho 7? Now, I think they'll make Cavani be 9, ship off Martial. I wouldn't surprise me if Martial left, to be fair. Do I want Martial to leave? No, I actually think Martial is a good player. And maybe give Sancho 7. But I think Sancho 7, shirt sales, Man United, up, Glazers, business, good for them, good for the pitch for us. Obviously, I want the Glazers to go. But I am saying that I think, the Glazers might be willing to spend 75 million on Sancho because, 1, they were willing to spend it last summer, but 2, as I said many, many times in this video, I think from a business perspective, United shirt sales falling, stocks falling. You sign Sancho, it goes up again. I think the Glazers almost need Sancho. I mean, we need Sancho in a footballing term, but I actually think the Glazers need Sancho. I do. Do you know any centre-backs who are not signed with Mino Raiola that could be perfect for Manchester United? Well, we've been linked to Rafa Varane, Jules Koundé, and Pau Torres the most. Now, I don't know who's with Mino Raiola, but I'd say Jules Koundé would be a very, very good signing for Manchester United. And I've made videos on Jules Koundé before. I've done a lot of research on Jules Koundé. There's a story about a Pogba Hazard swap deal. That's not going to happen, honestly. I mean, would Hazard go to Man United? Probably not. Is he injury prone and a bit of a flop? Yes. Is Hazard world class? Sure. But again, he's a left winger. We don't need a left winger. We don't. Thoughts on the levels of intensity and frequency at the Glazers Out Protest plus possible sanctions on the club? Well, this is exactly what I was going to talk about. So I'm going to quickly get into the story about Manchester United possibly being fined, but I just want to talk about this little report, which says reports that the Glazers could be persuaded to sell Manchester United, but for only 4 billion. It was said by a financial person. But this report came out and said the Glazer families and other owners of English top-flight clubs will be forced to sign a charter committing themselves to the Premier League principles as part of the fallout with the failed Super League. Breaches of new league measures, which include the owner's charter by joining breakaway competition in future, will lead to significant sanctions understood by potential bans to the league. Now, there's obviously the Glazers are going to have a bit of a consequence. They're going to have to sign things so this Super League can't happen with the Premier League, which they're probably not going to be too happy about and all of that. But there is news about the Liverpool-Manchester United match being rescheduled for May 15th, 16th, or May 14th, 15th, which I believe will go ahead. The only question is there going to be protests again on that day? You know, that's the big story, that Manchester United will be looking to do protests again on that day. But there's this rumour coming in that Man United are going to get a points deduction. And if you want my honest opinion, I don't think we'll get a points deduction. I don't think the points deduction is anything to worry about, because who's reporting on the points reduction? The Mirror and the Daily Mail. Look, if anything comes from the Mirror, the Daily Mail, or the Star, just ignore it, because it's likely to be crap until someone like Fabrizio Romano has said something. I don't think we will get a points reduction. I honestly don't think Manchester United will get a points reduction. I'd be very surprised if we do. I think that's just bullshit from the Star, from the Mirror, all of that, trying to get clicks. But yeah, everybody, please subscribe if you're new and you've not seen my face before. I do daily Manchester United content. It's a Manchester United fan channel. We will be live on Thursday night for the Manchester United versus Roma watch along. So if that sounds like your thing, make sure you subscribe. Nick Morris said, after yesterday, it wouldn't surprise me now if the Glazers put a block on any summer signings and just take the money out of the club to piss the fans off. Now, you say that, Nick. I get your point. I understand your point. But if the Glazers have a bad transfer window, bear in mind our stocks and shirt sales are falling. If the Glazers have a bad transfer window, they're almost going to lose money because the stocks are going like this. The only way the Glazers can get their stocks and shirt sales up is sign a player like Sancho. So the Glazers might want to piss us all off for these protests, but they will just damage themselves. All the Glazers are thinking about right now is, shit, our stocks are at an all-time low. Shit, our shirt sales are low. Adidas is putting pressure on us. Ed Woodward, our money-making machine, our right-hand man, is left. The Glazers might have to have a good summer. Maybe they will try and have a bad summer to piss us off, but that might hurt them financially as well. If the Glazers have a bad summer, it could hurt them financially. And you've got to remember about the Glazers, they need us to get Champions League football. The Super League isn't happening. They need us to get Champions League every summer. This guy says that he's new here. If you are new here, thank you for joining the stream. I do daily Manchester United content and live streams. So feel free to subscribe, hit that like button, and share this. Do you reckon Donny van de Beek will leave this summer? I don't think he will. There's a lot of news of him staying. But talking of leaving and talking of Jadon, I do think Jesse Lingard will leave. Will we use Jesse Lingard to get Declan Rice? Would be smart, but United aren't smart in the transfer window. I think Ben White will be our signing for centre-back. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if we signed Ben White. There is the main three centre-backs are Pau Torres, Jules Koundé, and Rafael Varane. They're our first three choice centre-backs. Would it be classic Man United to say, we've got Eric Bailly, we don't need to spend more than 20 million on the centre-back, and sign someone like Ben White that will sit on the bench for half the season? Yeah. Well, if we signed someone like Ben White or Tyrone Mings, would I be surprised? Not at all. Not at all. Even Edinson Cavani stay must be Harry Kane, must buy Harry Kane. I like Harry Kane. I think he's a top player, but I think we've got priorities elsewhere. You know, I just look at that team and I just go CDM, right wing, centre back is needed more. I'm just trying to get comfy in my chair because I've sat here for like 43 minutes and all of that. What's the noise about Ronaldo coming back? I think it's a PR spin to distract the fans because they're angry. This guy says Rice and Sancho is possible. BVB want to sell him for 80 to 85 million euros. His price will fall if they fail to qualify for the UCL this season. Why Varane go for Pau Torres or even Varane if he's achievable? Yeah, so the thing is, if Borussia Dortmund don't get Champions League football, and I'm just going to Google the Bundesliga now because I don't think Borussia Dortmund are going to get Champions League football. Let me Google this now. So Borussia Dortmund have got 17 times 2, 34 games. Borussia Dortmund have got 3 more games to go, and they're 1 point off 4th. So they could well indeed get Champions League football, but they have to win basically every game and hope that they drop points. So if Borussia Dortmund don't get Champions League football, Sancho could be even cheaper than £75 million. Remember, United were willing to pay £80 million for Sancho. He's now £75 million. If they fail to get Champions League football, he could be even cheaper. Sancho is the perfect signing, left wing, right mid, and sell deadwoods like Dan James. for Ahmad game time. Yeah, we'll talk about outs at Manchester United. Who would you sell? I think Mata's going to go. I think Matic will go if we get a CDM like Declan Rice. But you know Manchester United are very inefficient in the transfer market, that they might offer Matic a new contract and say, oh, it's basically a new signing. Because did you know Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said, Phil Jones will be back next season, it's basically a new signing. He actually said that, no joke. I think Dan James could go. I think we did try and get rid of Dan James last time. It wouldn't surprise me if Daniel James, Mata, Matic, possibly Diallo, and even Martial left. Do I want Martial to leave? No, I actually am a big fan of Martial. But you know what? If we sign Sancho, I think Martial could leave. Would I be willing to get rid of Martial for Sancho? Honestly, I would. And I am a massive fan of Martial. But I think a right wing is so needed, and I just think that Greenwood's going to be our striker for years to come. Also, Cavani staying another year. I think Cavani's really helped Greenwood kick on a lot. And I think Cavani staying another year is a good thing. When we signed Cavani, I wasn't a big fan of it. He's had a few injuries, but I think I can just see the improvement on Greenwood from Cavani. I think just Greenwood's movements become more mature. Even in the Spurs game, Greenwood put in a first-time cross, and it was Cavani that told him to do that. I remember Greenwood saying about it. So I think the impact of Cavani is a positive impact on Greenwood. Koundé is 70 million euros. Yeah, Koundé will be about 60 million quid. So that's why I think Koundé was our first choice centre-back. But I think with Bailly staying, we won't sign Koundé, because we will go for a cheaper centre-back, because we've got Eric Bailly staying. There's no need to spend 70 million on a centre-back. Do we need a player like Koundé? Yes, because Bailly can't stay fit. But yeah, I don't think we will get Koundé. I think Pau Torres is more likely because he's cheaper. My only fear with Pau Torres is, does he get straight in the starting 11? No, I think Pau Torres is better than Lindelof. He's left-footed. He's a little bit quicker than Lindelof and Maguire. But he's one of those players where he could be good enough to get in that starting 11, but Ollie's going to be a bit stubborn and maybe just not give him the game time. Would you take a striker, Edouard from Celtic? He's a decent player. I mean, if like Martial left or Cavani left, then yes. But I think if we can keep Martial, Cavani, and Greenwood and all of that, I think a right winger is more of a priority. I'd love Kane, I'd love Haaland, but I just think, look at that midfield. I go CDM, right wing, centre back. Please let us know if the Glazers are also getting forced out. Well, the thing is, this whole protest was to send a message about the 50+1 rule in football. There's a petition to get the 50+1 rule in football, which could put the Glazers in a position where they don't really make the money they hope to make from Manchester United and could possibly be forced out. The Glazers are at Manchester United. It will take $4 billion to get Manchester United, but I think Woodward going, the constant pressure on the Glazers. The Glazers were the ringleaders of the Super League. The Super League has fallen through, and the Glazers were the ringleader of the Super League. You know, the Glazers are definitely in a position where they're weak, they're vulnerable. And the only way that the Glazers will be less weak and vulnerable is to get those stocks up. And the only way for the Glazers to get those stocks up is to sign someone like Sancho. And, you know, I think the Glazers are in a weak, vulnerable position because Woodward, their right-hand man, they joined with Woodward. Will they leave with Woodward? That's the question. Is gone. The Super League, which they were the masterminds behind for years, has fallen through. They've now got to sign this chartered agreement with the Premier League, which means they can't make a breakaway league. So their Super League fans have fallen through, bitten them in the arse, got their right-hand man Woodward sacked, and now the constant pressure from fans is the Glazers are in their weakest and most vulnerable position at Manchester United. And I think they have two options. They either need to have a really good transfer window, distract us, which I don't want them to do, and stocks go up, or if they have a bad transfer window, the stocks are going to go down, the pressure's going on. But the only way we can get the Glazers out is constant pressure, constant protest. The protest worked versus Liverpool. It did. The protest completely worked versus Liverpool, and it was a successful protest. But you've got to remember that one protest isn't going to make a massive difference. You know, you've got to have multiple protests. You've got to have multiple impacts. You know, it's more than one protest. But it was a very massive, successful protest. I do agree. Jones will be injured again before the summer and out next season. He just wants a testimonial at United. Honestly, I can't believe Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said that Phil Jones being fit is like a new signing. I do think that was embarrassing from Ole. Only 15 likes needed for 100 likes. If everybody watching could hit that like button. And if you're new, please subscribe to Alice Talks, where I do daily Manchester United videos. I'll be doing a live watch along on Thursday for the Roma game. I'll be doing my match preview tomorrow for the game and more. So I'll be doing a lot of live streams, transfer news updates and more. So feel free to subscribe if you're new. If we don't get Sancho, we could swap James for Rafinha. Yeah, I think we're in a position where we're in a very strong position to get Jadon Sancho. But if we're looking at cheaper alternatives, I do agree we can get Rafinha. But if a right wing is our number one priority, we shouldn't be looking at cheaper alternatives. But I would take Rafinha. In other news, an Indian billionaire worth 90 billion who owns Mumbai cricket team and has invested in football in India could be a possible buyer. Yeah, he could be a possible buyer. I generally think if someone has £4 billion and they give it to the Glazers, they will sell. It's just how many people have £4 billion? Not many. Not many. I think you have to make the club 2-3 billion at least. And the only way to do that is to get the stocks down. But yeah. Koundé 70 million, Sancho 85 million, and Rice 50 million plus Lingard. I think the Glazers will spend so much money. Will those signings give us a chance? I think the Glazers have the money to spend. I think they have that money to spend. Will they spend it? Let's be honest. Probably not. I think they need to get one marquee signing done. I think just for their own business perspective. But yeah. As a big FU to Man United fans, the Glazers won't buy anyone this summer. They feel the peasants must be in their place. I understand why people think that, but I generally think the Glazers will have to sign someone because our stocks are at the lowest. Our shirt sales are going down. The only way they can get that up is Sancho. Boom, shirt sales up, stocks up, money up, hype up. Honestly, you know, Man United as a club, when we have a bad result, what do we do the next day? Pump positivity because we need positive PR. We need those stocks to go up. It's a business thing. We lose, the next day we're linked to a big player. And, you know, if the Glazers are losing, if the fans are winning, the Glazers are losing, what are they going to do? Shit, we're actually going to have to spend a one-off summer, a big summer to get those stocks up. But then the following few summers, I guarantee will be shit. But this could be our good summer because they need it. And then the following summers will be shit. Would I rather have a bad summer if it got the Glazers out? Yes. I'd rather not sign anyone and let the Glazers out than sign everyone and keep the Glazers. Because even if we had a good summer this summer, because the Glazers need it, I still think we'd have a few bad summers to follow. Rashford, Greenwood, Sancho in the attack. That would be a mad attack. I agree. Alice for director of football, people are saying, I mean, I'd love to be a director of football, but I don't know if I could be controlled by those puppets saying, I'll be like, Ollie wants Varane. Ollie wants Koundé. Ollie wants Pau Torres. They'll go to me, get Ben White. That's what the owners would do. I don't know if you could be a director of football at Man United if you actually know something about football. I feel like to be a director of football at Man United, you have to know fuck all about football. Otherwise, it must frustrate you. I mean, Ed Woodward knew nothing about football. I mean, Joel Glazer didn't even know what the offside rule was. But yeah, Kane or Haaland. Kane is better, but Haaland's more for the future. Haaland will be 60 million next summer. I'd say Haaland. If we sign Sancho, the Glazers will try and give him 2 jerseys to gain money. Honestly, they'll probably try and give him two jersey numbers. I agree. I do think if we do sign Sancho, Martial could go the other way because I could see it being Cavani 9, Sancho 7. I don't know about you guys. There's a news about Martial going to Real Madrid, which is an interesting one. Would I sell Martial? No. I'm a massive Martial fan. I think he's having an off season. But if selling Martial meant Sancho, I would. Do you think we'll buy a centre-back in the summer or Ollie believe in Lindelof Maguire to win the league? I think Man United possibly will buy a centre-back. Now, Fabrizio Romano has said that Man United want to sign a centre-back despite Eric Bailly signing a new contract. And I think Manchester United have always wanted to sign a centre-back this summer, even though Eric Bailly has signed a new contract. It did frustrate me that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer came out and said that, Phil Jones is like a new signing. I think we will sign a centre-back, but I think our centre-back targets have changed. I think before the Bailly new contract, we were looking at Koundés and Varanes. That would have been 60 million quid. I think now we're probably going to sign a centre-back, but will it be Milinkovic for 30 million quid? Will it be Pau Torres for 40 million quid? I think Pau Torres is a decent centre-back, and I think we will sign a centre-back, but I just can't see us getting our first or second choice centre-back, getting an expensive centre-back now that Bailly stayed. You know, I could see us getting Jadon Sancho and a cheap centre-back, but I can't see us getting Jadon Sancho an expensive centre-back. And I can't see us now that Bailly's staying and Phil Jones is our new signing, what a load of bullshit, us going for Varane or Koundé unless Pogba or Martial leaves. I think the only way we get a big centre-back is if Martial goes or Pogba goes. But I think we'll sign a centre-back. I just don't know if it's a centre-back that's going to walk straight into the starting 11. It could be very much 4th, 5th choice down the list. Signing. Adidas will have an emergency meeting with Man United. What's your thoughts about that? Well, the shirt sales are going down, and Adidas aren't happy with Manchester United. Stocks are going down, shirt sales are falling, and the only way for United to get those shirt sales up is Sancho 7. It is. It's true. You sign Sancho, but you know a lot of people are refusing to buy shirts to lower the stocks and all of that. Alice, we must fight for Jack Grealish and Jadon Sancho and a defender like Jules Koundé or Rafael Varane and Pau Torres. I agree, but I also would like to add CDM to your comment there. I think they're all brilliant. and all that. Pedro and Goncalves, 28, Luis Neto, 13, Adrian, 1. Are these all like sported players on FIFA? Yeah, I know that the Goncalves, I don't know if I said his name's been really good at Sporting. I do know that. But thank you everybody for tuning into the stream. We'll be talking about the Jadon Sancho situation. We're talking about the points reduction. I want to sum up everything that was said in this stream. I'm going to end the stream in about 5 minutes, but I'm going to sum up everything that was sort of said in the stream in about 5 minutes for all of you guys watching. So the latest on Jadon Sancho was that Manchester United do have everything in place to sign Jadon Sancho. Fabrizio Romano did say that. There's a gentleman's agreement between Borussia Dortmund and Sancho that he can leave this summer if the £75 million asking price is met. The asking price for Sancho is between 85 and 90 million euros, which is between 70 and 80 million pounds. And we know that Manchester United were willing to spend 80 million pounds on Sancho last summer, so surely they have 80 million pounds to spend on him this summer, because I think the plan always was, if we don't get Sancho last summer, we go for him this summer, kind of like with Bruno Fernandes in September. They got him in January, but Dortmund's deadline is before the Euros. We know that Dortmund like to set a deadline to sell players, and they want to get Sancho in before the Euros. We know that Dortmund have actually been looking at alternatives in the Premier League, and apparently the Dortmund made a bid for a Premier League player and all of that, and they have been looking at alternatives in the Premier League. We also talked about Edinson Cavani staying. Fabrizio Romano sort of come out and said that United are confident Cavani will stay and sign a new contract. Fabrizio Romano also talked about Eric Bailly's contract not affecting Manchester United, and we are still looking for a centre-back. And Borussia Dortmund are confident that Erling Haaland will stay for another season, which means more likely that Sancho will leave. That's sort of what we covered in the video today. We also talked about the points reduction. Will Man United get points reduction because of the protest versus Liverpool? I doubt we will get points reduction because it's come from the Star, the Mirror and the Daily Mail. And if a news article comes from the Star, the Mirror and the Daily Mail, disregard it off because it's normally a load of crap. When you come in for your news, you want to listen to reliable journalists, and I think Fabrizio Romano's probably the most reliable that you get out there in terms of journalists. But that's sort of just summing up all the latest news and all of that. And I will be live again later this week. But thank you to everybody for tuning into the stream. I think we should sign a CDM, a right winger, and a centre back. If you could all hit that like button, it would mean a lot. We might as well go for 200 likes now that we have hit 150 likes. So everybody, Glazers Out, hit that like button for Glazers Out. Subscribe if you're new and you've not seen my face before, as I do daily Manchester United content. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Goodbye. Subscribe.